a ceasefire. Well, let's discuss this in more detail with Laura Blumenfeld, former senior policy advisor on the US State Department's Israeli-Palestinian negotiating team. Really appreciate you sharing your time for us. These talks ongoing in Doha, the integration and the degree to which Hamas is aware and being made part of this is varied. To what degree can there be meaningful outcomes as a result?
Well, look, the talks have broad implications for the region and beyond, I'd say. The whole region is teetering between sort of impulses toward revenge and pragmatism. I believe that we have an opportunity for a breakthrough, though, because there's nothing like a gun held at your head to clarify the mind. And there, for various parties, for the two most important parties, Hamas and Israel, they arguably do have a gun to their head. Iran and Hezbollah, as we know, are poised to retaliate against Israel for what they claim were the Israelis would call it a kind of triple crown terrorism assassination. And the only way they can hold that off, both Iran and Hezbollah have indicated that they would be willing to at least keep their powder dry for now if there is a ceasefire.
We have seen numerous rounds of talks. There was obviously that pause in fighting at the end of last year that allowed the release of some hostages and also some people to be transferred for humanitarian reasons. Do you think that the driver really is that strong this time, that despite all the previous failures, that we could see a second round of success?
This is different. Look at the firepower that the United States has amassed and sent accelerated to the region, fighter jets and warships. It's unclear whether the United States is aiming this, they are locked and loaded. Are they aiming at the Iranian regime itself or at the proxies? But I would call it gunboat diplomacy. I mean, there's been a kind of two-prong approach, which is a diplomatic filibuster. As long as you keep talking, there won't be an attack. But there is also the kind of military muscle that can clarify. Also, from Netanyahu's point of view, he had 7 hours of meetings yesterday with his key partners, his cabinet members. He understands that the hostages who are under lock and key, ironically, could unlock the region to peace. Their lives, apparently, according to their intelligence assessments, are increasingly threatened. Their health is fragile. There are even rumors that President Trump, if not the former president himself, but one of his associates, whether it was one of his, his ambassador or another key confidant, reached out to Netanyahu. President Trump does not want this. If he's elected, he doesn't want the mess. And Vice President Harris, if she's the United States president, she doesn't want the moral conundrum either. So I think there's a lot of urgency now, especially with the U.S. Election coming up, to resolve this hopefully once and for all.
There are numerous hypotheses that say that Benjamin Netanyahu is acutely aware of his own position and that there are reasons potentially why he is not rushing to bring about radical change in the status quo with regards to the conflict with Hamas, because prior to this, he was facing a slew of legal challenges. He struggled to form a coalition government, that Israel was beset by political turmoil. What do you make of those arguments and the people that are making them?
Look, I think that's true. Of course, he's all about survival politically, first of all. But he does believe his own rhetoric. He does believe that Hamas needs to disarm, to lay down their weapons. And some of the sticking points in the negotiations have to do with just that, about keeping the Philadelphia corridor, which is right along the border with Egypt, cutting that off so that Hamas can't rearm and then they'll have to fight them another time. He also fundamentally, Netanyahu, and philosophically, does not believe in negotiating with terrorists. The only time that he released Palestinian prisoners, including Sinwar, who's now the leader of Hamas, was in 2011 when there was a hostage exchange for one Israeli soldier. And the reason why he decided to do it was not really about the hostage exchange for this one Israeli soldier. It was to give Israeli pilots confidence that if they ever went down over enemy territory, including Iran, that Israel would redeem, as they use it, their captives. Because at that point, they were thinking about, they're always thinking about bombing Iran's nuclear facilities. So it was a more of a one-time mistake that he thinks of, and rather than a general approach to hostage situations.
Just brief, if you will, Laura, we're a little tight on time, I'm afraid. Just what do you think the timescale could be for these talks?
Right. Well, the problem all along has been, can we synchronize our watches? At certain points, the United States wanted it more than the parties. The Israelis are now calling it a now or never moment. So I would listen carefully to that. On the other hand, as Prime Minister Shamir once said of Israel, never give yourself an ultimatum. You don't want to box yourself in.
Joining us from Washington, Laura Blumenfeld, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Great to be here. Thank you.